Hey, how's everybody doing? Mike here at Gen X Arcade, and in this video I'm going to show you guys how to use a full-size cabinet that's running on a Raspberry Pi. It's got a couple of cool extra upgrades. First thing you got to do is turn it on. You'll see a surge protector mounted on the back of the cabinet. Make sure you plug that in and just flip the switch on the back of the surge protector. So once you flip that switch, first thing that you should notice, your marquee, if you have a light-up marquee, will light up. All your buttons will light up, and it's going to take a moment for the screen to boot, and then you're going to start to see what we like to call an intro video. This being a Pac-Man, it's going to have a Pac-Man themed video on here. Now this cabinet is a little bit different for our audio control. The audio control on this runs on this little button, little remote control right here. In order to use this, all you do is point it at your marquee, and you can control volume up and down and turn your volume on and off. So you can see here we've got volume down, volume up. Just point that at the marquee. And you can turn the volume down, or you can turn the volume up. So there you go. I'm going to turn it down so you guys can hear me. Now keep in mind, this has to be pointed at the light up marquee in order for it to work, because the amplifier is mounted right behind that marquee. Okay, so we're going to stick that back over here on the Velcro where it goes. You'll also notice there's another little remote control Velcro to the side here. This is to control all your lights. So you'll notice you have a light strip here, and there's also one on the bottom. So you can use this to change your colors, your modes, and make it do just about anything that you want. Set that off to the side. Now it's done loading, you're into your main screen. Number one joystick over here is what you're going to use to control everything. So you're going to use this joystick to go up and down until you see a subcategory you want to go into. So this is all broken up in categories as far as favorites, last played, consoles, and there's also a couple of subcategories like a bunch of Mortal Kombat games. You can see here there's Nintendo 64, Miami, Neo Geo, Nintendo Hacks. There's a bunch of versions of Pac-Man, and so on and so on. So if you scroll down far enough, eventually you'll see the all game list. Okay, all games. This has 9,000 games. To enter one of these subcategories, you push your A button, which is going to be the bottom row closest to you in the center. So that's your A button. Always think of that as being the enter button. That's going to bring you right in here to all games. Every game is in alphabetical order, and you can scroll down by holding down the player number one joystick. The longer you hold it, the faster it will scroll, and you'll start to see the alphabet show up here. There's also a pretty neat trick. You can jump through the alphabet. You just push the player one coin button, and see jump 2 comes here, and we can change the alphabet over here. So let's say you wanted to play Pac-Man. Oops. There's your P, so hit your A button, and we've automatically jumped to the P's, and you can scroll right down until you see the game that you want to play. And here's Pac-Man, and you can see it says arcade here, and there'll be a little thumbnail that shows you the game. Once you've found the game you want to select, push the A button again. Always remember, that A button is basically like your enter key on a keyboard. Do not press A to skip. Do not. I repeat, do not, because then you will end up in a screen to change settings. Allow it to load, give it a second or two. Once the game loads, this is perfectly normal. Now, the other thing I got to point out on this cabinet, it has an extra feature here for player number one. You'll see this extra button that has 2 halves to it. If you push one side of it, it turns to red. Push the other side, it turns back to blue. Blue sets this joystick at a 4-way. Red sets it at an 8-way. So retro games, like Pac-Man for instance, were always meant to play on a 4-way. So make sure you set this to blue. Now this was an arcade version, it says credit 0. So it's looking for a coin. Put coin and start. And there you go. There is your player number one for Pac-Man. So you don't want to play this game anymore. Push coin and player number one together. On some games, it will require you to do that twice. Now you're back in your subcategory of all games. If you want to get back to the main menu, push the B button, which is the bottom left, next to your A button. So remember, A is the bottom middle, B is the bottom left. So push your B button. Now you can see we're back in here where all of our other subcategories are. And like I said, you'll see arcade classics, last played, and also a favorites list. So if you refer to your last played list, just hit the A button like I said before. You can go right in, select a game by hitting A, give the game a moment to load. Do not push any buttons while it is loading. Once it's finished loading, you can do just like we did on Pac-Man. If you select a game that was originally on a console, Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Atari, and so on, you won't have to hit coin. You didn't put quarters in your Atari, right? So you don't put quarters in this. But if you select an arcade version like this, it's looking for credits. That's why we have a coin button. So now we're going to do 2-player. You can join 2-player in. And there you go. So there's how your 2-player setup works. Now keep in mind, these games are identical to what we had original. So if original it was 1 joystick, that's what you'll have. If original it was 2, then you'll have 2. I've had people ask me, well, how come Pac-Man I don't use player 2 joystick? If you remember going to the arcade, Pac-Man only had 1 joystick. So player 1 and 2 will share player number 1 joystick. That's why we only put the switch on player 1. It doesn't make sense to put it on player 2. It'd be a waste of time and money. So anyways, so to play this game, you obviously want to switch this over to red, and now you're back to normal, and you've got your 8-way joystick, so you can do what you want to do. So once again, to exit a game, hit those 2 together. Now another important thing is, how do I shut this off, okay? The easy way to remember it is player number 1. From this screen, push the player 1 start button. That's the one with the picture of a person on it. That's going to bring up your menu screen. Scroll down, select quit with your A button. If this says shut down system, A button again, really shut down system? Yes. You'll know that it's shut down because the screen has gone blank and your lights up here should shut off. Now you should still shut it off on the switch on the back because you still have power to your lights and to your monitor. Over time, if you leave it on, you could burn the monitor out. So I do recommend shutting it off, hit the switch on the back to shut it all down. And of course, to turn it back on, same thing that we did earlier, just go around back and flip that switch and go through the same process. So this video basically covered the basics on how to use, play, and enjoy, and turn on and shut off this particular cabinet running on a Raspberry Pi 4. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to send me a message or put a comment below, and I'll do everything that I can to help. So in the meantime, this is Mike at Gen X Arcade. Thank you very much for following along, and we'll see you guys at the arcade.